Everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to review the movie Rangasthalam. This is one of the biggest blockbusters of the Telugu film industry in 2018. After Bahubali 2 and Arjun Reddy, I might be a little wrong here, but this is one of the biggest hits after those two movies in 2017. It really did very well at the box office and has taken Charan to a whole new level in terms of his stardom. I watched this movie and I think this was one of the most entertaining movies I have watched in terms of commercial entertainment in a very long time. In fact, while I was watching this movie, I remembered Singham, which the Hindi version of Singham, wherein I was so taken away and blown away with no expectations, yet having been entertained so much in terms of unique, or rather I should say traditional commercial entertainment presented in a unique way. So Rangasthalam does something on that front and at that level in terms of amazing commercial entertainment. It is an out and out masala entertainer with all the ingredients that you would see in a commercial film. However, it has been presented in a very unique manner that it still feels refreshing when you watch this movie. This movie, of course, stars Ram Charan, Samantha, Jagpati Babu, Prakash Raj in the more important roles, and it has a host of supporting cast that do a great job. Ram Charan, I think this is his first movie in which he's playing sort of a villager or a simpleton as compared to most of his previous movies where he's a styling, good-looking, handsome, dashing city boy. So it has been very unique to watch him in this role, and I think that's what clicked with the audiences. I think his character was very well written in terms of making him something completely different from what he usually is. You know, he's a completely simple village guy. He doesn't know much about, you know, the outside world or the modern city world. This village is deep somewhere in the, you know, countryside, and you don't even have a lot of access to all the modern kind of amenities of the city life. So he's not used to that. So that kind of character development was, I think, very well done, and he, you know, pulled it off amazingly. In his recent interview, he said that he went and spent time with some village folk and some fishermen, and that's where he learned how to be simple while shooting this movie. And I think that really worked, and that's what the audience is really connected to in terms of his characterization. He's also a little tone deaf, which gives the character another unique element that we usually don't see, and it's really entertaining and fun to watch him in this performance. Samantha, who has a pretty much the love interest of Ram Charan in this movie, does a really good job. I have not watched exceedingly large number of Samantha movies. I've watched her in few movies. But I think that she really did play the village girl very well, and she had this very different and unique expression, and I would commend her for that kind of acting that I wouldn't have imagined her doing, because in modern films she's usually doing certain kinds of characters, but here it was completely different, and I really enjoyed her performance. I always absolutely love Jagpati Babu. Whenever he comes on screen, he's like outstanding screen presence, outstanding style, and even in this movie, although he was playing a villager, there was this sense of crazy style to him, and it's always very hard to play such a character because he's playing a grey character, a sort of villain, obviously, and he's played a villain many times, but it's very difficult to play a villain so convincingly, because usually villains are shown to have bad deeds and they do bad things and therefore they are villains. But in Jagpati Babu, in all his movies, he's usually not directly doing something bad. He just personifies the negative characters so well that it just, when you look at him, you come to know it's negative, and that's the power of his performance. I also think he's really lucky to a lot of movies, because most of the movies, or rather the biggest hits, involve Jagpati Babu for all these actors. You know, in terms of Puli Murugar, which was Mohanlal's movie, which was probably dubbed in Telugu as Manyam Puli or something like that, he was there in it, and that was the biggest grosser ever in the Malayalam film industry. Then there was Junior NTR's Nanaku Premato, in which of course he played one amazing villain again, and that was one of the most famous movies of Junior NTR, and now one of the most famous movies and the biggest blockbusters of Ram Charan's career has Jagpati Babu again. So he's pretty lucky in that sense, I would say, and I love watching him on screen. He's an absolute delight, and his character was sort of the pillar of this movie, I would say. Prakash Raj has a smaller role, and it is pretty important, so he did a great job as well. And I love how Prakash Raj of late has been doing characters that are very interesting, very different, and not the stereotypical sort of overly powerful, stylish villain that he used to play a lot, who used to always land off a helicopter and have, you know, a lot of style and funny dialogues to it. It's nice to see him in doing very unique, interesting roles as well. The whole movie is based in a village, and that is also something that makes it very different, because we don't see a lot of village entertainment movies. And so to capture the essence of the village, the different types of characters of the village, was very, very well done by the director. The movie also has I'm guessing, I don't speak Telugu, but I'm guessing from the sound of it that this has a different dialect used in this movie, like a village dialect, which is based off from whatever region this sort of story is based on. And I think that everyone in the cast got that dialect very well and very naturally, and it was really nice and enjoyable to see it. So a lot of such small unique elements and touches added to this movie, which made it very different, although the basic skeleton of the movie is something that we've seen before, or something that we see in most commercial entertainers. But the whole point of this movie is to make it unique, and that was super successfully achieved by the director. The twists and turns keep coming every now and then, and it is completely unpredictable, and that is something that steals the show. I do have a couple of negative things to say about this movie, and it's not negative, it's more like in terms of constructive criticism, I would say. First thing I thought that was out of place were most of the songs. Songs and dance are a part of Indian movies for the longest time, but in such an entertainer, when there was so many gripping scenes with the core story in place, the songs always seemed like a sort of popcorn break, so to say, or a check your phones break. And therefore I felt that the number of songs, at least if they wouldn't or couldn't eliminate all the songs, the number of songs that were there could have been reduced to 2, maximum 3, or just like, I just felt there should not have been songs in the movie, because it was so gripping that it slowed the pace. Secondly, the love story element that happens after the first 25 minutes and goes on for another half an hour or 40 minutes is something that should have been trimmed down, or something that should have been more relevant to the story. It is relevant in a little way, but for the most part it just was thrown in there with a lot of comedy sequences, romantic sequences, and that is something that is very template of any commercial movie, that there is an actor, there is an introduction, then there is a love story, and then the story catches up again towards the second half. So I feel like these things, not specifically to Rangasthalam, but in general, these things need to be worked upon by all the writers and the filmmakers in terms of reducing it, making it more relevant, making it more natural. Why is it always that a guy sees the girl for the first time in the movie? They've been part of the same village for so many years and stuff like that. Maybe I didn't understand this part because everything doesn't translate in subtitles. But generally speaking, why is it always in commercial movies that they meet for the first time and they have a weird meeting and then they fall in love? It's like always the same thing. It could have been presented differently, it could have been trimmed down, it could have been made more relevant to the story as a whole, not just in terms of one point or the other. So those are the two things which I feel could have been improved, because this thriller was gripping in its essential story that it had to tell, and it was simply fantastic. And I really enjoyed the movie. When I went in, of course I knew this was a big hit already. It's been like 6 weeks it's been playing now. I watched it just recently, and I knew that this movie is going to be very entertaining, but I didn't expect that outstanding level of performances and entertainment that it had, and the story and the direction and the cinematography, everything just came together. A special shout out to the opening sequence of this movie, where of course there is no spoilers here, I don't reveal spoilers in my review, but in the opening sequence where there is an accident and Charan is getting off his cycle and running towards the accident to save the guy, that sequence was so amazingly shot. I can't even compliment enough the DOP, the cinematographer, who captured that in such an amazing way, and the editors of course, who are crucial to such a sequence. That is the most unique sequence I have seen in a long time in Indian cinema, the way they captured that live action sequence, and it was just outstanding. I don't know whether they use VFX or they use some crazy CGI and computer graphics and like editing techniques and camera techniques to do it, but that seemed like a lot of hard work, and that was really outstanding. So that is my favorite sequence of the movie, because something that's very unique. There was also points in the movies that you would really get your adrenaline pumping, you would feel like clapping and whistling for what's going on in the movie, and that again is something that is completely on the director and the editor for how they made. So I really enjoyed this movie overall. I'm going with 3.5 stars for Rangasthalam because it was a power-packed entertainer. I hope you like this review. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and take care.